we have finally taken down those darn English speakers trying to learn our language. We made it extra tricky for them, so we came up with a bunch of funky rules. Here's mine. Yeah, it's about weird yo verbs. Okay, so weird yo verbs are very important to learn because we like to talk about ourselves a lot. There are 4 different categories of yo verbs. Ones that end in go. Verbs that go from G-U-I-R, G-E-R, or G-I-R to G-O or J-O. Ones that end in Z, C-O, and ones that end in O-Y. There's also the really weird ones, like ver and saber. Ver is strange because it keeps the E and becomes V-E-O. Saber is weird because it's spelled se, or as E, and isn't used by itself. There's also some other weird things, like how some verbs tend to change in the yo form and others don't. For instance, tango doesn't have the I like it does in the other forms, but desir does stem change into digo like how it does in other forms. So that's basically what the weird yo verbs are like, and they'll never be able to figure that out, so.
I came up with a conditional tense to mess with English speakers who's trying to learn Spanish. Is that it? The conditional tense is used to discuss hypothetical situations and probabilities and to make polite requests. The conditional tense is formed very similarly to the Spanish simple future tense. Both regular and irregular verbs use the same set of endings, and any stem that is irregular in the future simple is also irregular in the conditional. Simple future tense for talking about what a person will do. It can also be used to talk about conjecture, possibilities, and probabilities. In the present, making predictions about the future and give solemn commands. It is used to talk about what will or shall happen, also to express the possibility of what someone might or may be doing in the present. To form the conditional tense, with regular verbs, simply add the conditional endings to the end of the infinitive. The conditional has relatively fewer irregular verbs. They fall into 3 categories. Verbs where the last vowel in the infinitive is replaced with a D. Verbs where the last vowel in the infinitive is removed. And finally, verbs that are just plain irregular.
This is the rule I came up with to mess with English speakers trying to learn Spanish. Había without a verb means there is, there are, there was, there were, but when we use haber with it, it means has, have, and had. In the preterite, haber conjugates to a, os, on, amos, on, and in the preterite, haber conjugates to ube, ubiste, ubo, ubimos, hubieron. And in the imperfect, haber conjugates to había, habías, había, habíamos, and habían.
I made the irregular preterites to mess with you English speakers trying to speak Spanish. The thing about irregular preterites, there's no stem changes with them because they have irregular roots. And there's also no accents on any of the words, the verbs. They always end in a, iste, o, imos, or ieron. One example is anduve, which means I walked. When conjugating in the eos, eas, and useres form, use ieron unless the root contains a J. For example, if you're saying they said in Spanish, you would not say dijeron, you would say dijeron. All the strange roots combined, conjugated in the yo form are anduve, suve, tuve, pude, puse, supe, ube, coupe, duhe, ise, kise, vini, dihe, trahe, fui, fui, di. Yes. Some more things about the irregular preterite to take into account is that the past tense is both ser and ir. The yo form is fui. The to form is fuiste, fue, fuimos, fueron. Those are the rest of the conjugations. But anyways, that's strange because it doesn't really have anything in common with ser and ir. And it's also a past tense for two verbs, which is just very strange on its own. Another thing to take into account is that dar is also a weird irregular preterite, or it's also an irregular preterite rather. It is an AR verb that uses IR ending. So if you want to say I gave in the past tense, you would say D instead of de. Yo D.
I'm the creator of the many meanings of se and se, and I just did this to mess with Spanish English speakers and everybody who wants to speak Spanish. Okay, so it's many meanings of se and se. One of them is saber in the yo form, which is yo sé. Another one will be ser in the command form. It'll be sé bueno, for example. Another of the meanings will be se, means himself, herself, itself, yourself, themselves, or oneself. Se is called a reflexible pronoun. Se also means each other. Ejemplo, ellos se gustan, ellos se ven los lunes. Indirect object is when used to a direct object. Ejemplos serían se los doy, to him, to her, to them, to you all. Thank you.
I hate your rule.